Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be reviewing the Ninja Dual Zone Air Fryer with Megazone. Is this the air fryer you're looking for? Watch this video and find out. So you ready? Let's get into this. Just a quick note, my reviews are based upon the things that I think are important. That might be a little bit different for you, so what I recommend doing is after watching this video, you watch a couple of different videos from other content creators. That way you get a wider range of opinions and concerns, and with that you can make a much more informed buying decision. And that is the most important thing of all. This is the Ninja Dual Zone Air Fryer. Previous versions of this had two separate compartments with their own separate handles. If you look really closely, you can see this line right here. This may have been originally designed to have these two compartments separate, or they might be using a similar mold to that last version of their air fryer. Since this is now one compartment, instead of having the individual handles, you just have this one long, weird handle on here now instead. That's one of the things I really don't like about the aesthetics on this machine. Not so much that it's just the one handle, but just the fact that it really extends out pretty far here on the sides. In fact, this is almost 2 inches on each side of the air fryer here that this just sticks out. And the machine's already really big anyway to begin with, so that just makes it even bigger on your countertop.
U-G-L-Y, she ain't got no alibi, she ugly.
In fact, if you measure this out, we're talking about 13 inches high. If you take the handle sticking out right here into account, then the depth of the machine is about 12 inches, and the width, measuring the ends of the handles, is 19 and a half. So this is definitely not a small machine. It should be noted though that this will fit underneath your upper cabinets no problem. Standard height on those is about 17 inches and this fits under that pretty easily. If we look around the back of the machine, you got your power cord here, which is a little bit on the short side. This is roughly 2 feet long, so I kind of wish they would have put longer power cord on this. I mean, it's always a welcome addition to have that. And it would have been nice if they included some way to keep this cable tidy, either in the form of this being retractable, or at least some standoffs here so this could be wrapped around it and cinched off. Back here is all the ventilation for the machine. It all vents backwards out of the machine, so you have to be careful not to get this too close to your wall. Otherwise, you'll block your vents off and overheat this machine, or at the very least, you're gonna lose a lot of the efficiency. It's got these 2 nubs, and the purpose of those is to make sure that you can't slide it up against your wall. The exterior construction on this is all plastic. Even these chrome looking parts here are plastic, so don't let that fool you. Even this dial right here is plastic as well. If we open this up, you can see how the compartments are divided up. You've got a large 10-quart non-stick container, and it has this divider in the middle that's held in place with a little bit of rubber. Down in the bottom, there's a crisper plate on each side that's also non-stick coated, and that's also held in place with these little rubber pads as well. You can use these for air fry purposes, or even if you're just roasting something in here. These do sit up about 1/2 inch though, so anything you have in here is going to have the ability to cook without having to sit in the sauce. That comes in really handy if you're cooking whole chickens in here or something like that, and you don't want the bottom of it to get all soggy. These 2 sections can be controlled and cooked in separately, or you can remove the divider in the middle and cook in the entire thing at one time in what Ninja calls a Megazone. When you turn on the machine, you can see that you have a few different things going on here. All this blinking stuff is for the zones. You have Zone 1, which controls the left side, Zone 2, which controls just the right side, and Megazone you would use if you're going to take out that divider and cook something large in the entire container all at one time. The reason it can do that is because it has 2 separate heating elements for each side, and if you're using that Megazone, it controls both of them together in tandem. For functions on the machine, you have air fry, roast, bake, proof, a reheat function, a dehydrate function, and a keeps warm function as well. Also, it has a couple of extra controls called Smart Finish and Match Cook, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Over on the side is a little cheat sheet for using the Smart Finish mode, and it shows a lot of foods that can be cooked in the machine, along with temperature and the amount of time you would expect to put into cooking those things. On the other side, there's another sticker that has a little bit of information about the match cook mode and the Megazone with similar information about cooking times and types of food. Using the Ninja Dual Zone air fryer is really easy. In fact, it sort of just walks you through using it. You can see Zone 1, 2, and Megazone are all blinking. That's because they want you to select what you want to do and where you want to do it. So let's say I was going to cook something in Zone 1, which is this side right here. I would just select Zone 1. You can see it stays lit up and the other two are off. And I can pick what I want to do, so I'd say maybe air fry. The default settings will come up, which is 390 degrees and 20 minutes. I can use these controls over here to change the temperature all the way up to 400 maximum. And then right here I can change the amount of time in minutes. At this point, all I would need to do is start the machine, and in this case it would air fry at 400 degrees for 10 minutes right there. Now let's say I wanted to cook something else on the other side here at the same time. Well, then I can just hit Zone 2, and now you can see Zone 2 is blinking because that is what I'm working on right now. But Zone 1 is lit up because it has the information on that air fry that I already put in there. So now let's say on this side I want to roast something at, let's say, 325 degrees or so for 20 minutes. Now if I switch back to Zone 1, you can see that's my air fry settings. And then if I switch back to Zone 2, it's got my roast settings. So it remembers both of them, and if I just hit start right now, then it's going to start both of my things here. You can see the timers for each side. Zone 1 is the air fry, Zone 2 is the roast, and this one's going to be done in 13 minutes and 46 seconds versus 19 minutes and 42 seconds on the roast. Now under that scenario, that air fry is going to be done way sooner than the roasting. So if I want to eat everything together, the stuff that was air frying is going to get cold by the time the roasting gets done. That's where the smart finish comes in. To show you how that works, I can go back to Zone 1 again, and let's say we are still air frying, and we are going to do a 12-minute air fry at 390. Well, then I would go back to Zone 2 again like I did before, and I'm going to pick something different. Just say this is 30 minutes, just to make sure we have a nice wide difference in time. And once you've got that set, you can hit Smart Finish. Now when I start the machine, my roasting is starting on Zone 2 right now, and you can see that the air fry is on hold. So once this timer runs out, it's going to start the air fryer, and then they'll both finish at the same time. Cool, huh? The match cook setting is designed just to make your life a little bit easier and make things a little bit faster. To use this function before you hit anything else, you just hit match cook, and you'll see that it's blinking both Zone 1 and Zone 2. This comes in handy when you have two different things that you're going to put in the two different baskets, but they end up having the same temperature and cook time. In that case, why these are blinking, we would set what we want to do. So maybe we're going to air fry at 370 degrees for 15 minutes. And then all we do is hit start. You can see the temperature and time are only listed one time here. That's because it's sending it to both zones at the same time. Super simple. If I wanted to cook in the Megazone, which would be the entire section all at one time, then I would hit that button. Maybe if I was roasting a chicken, I would set it right there, bring this down to maybe 360 degrees, put this up to, we'll say, 40 minutes, and then you would just start it up. Obviously in this situation you'd have something big in there and you wouldn't have that center divider in there either. This works almost exactly like the match cook setting does because it's using both burners at the same time anyway, and if you were match cooking, it's essentially doing sort of the same thing this is doing. Hey, by the way, if this is your first time here and you want to learn some cool new recipes, get some great cooking tips and tricks and all sorts of other kitchen related things, then start now by subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell so you never miss a thing. For testing, the first thing I did was use the air fry function. I set up Zone 1 for some store-bought curly fries, and I set up Zone 2 for some onion rings. That works out really good because time and temperature for those two things is pretty wildly different. I used the recommended time and temperature that's on the bags for these. And a couple of times during the cook, I paused the machine, opened up the container, and used some tongs to toss the contents around a little bit. If you're using an air fryer, that's definitely something that you have to do, and it's not just a Ninja thing, it's any air fryer you have, because remember, these aren't sitting in oil. It is relying on air circulation in order to cook these things. So if you have the same bits of it always in the center, those things aren't going to get cooked. The results on the air fryer were extremely good on both. The curly fries were cooked and nice and crunchy, and I had a surprising amount of crunch on those onion rings. One thing about the air frying though is that the amount of time it took was almost double the amount of time that it said it needed on the bag. How much of a big deal that is just kind of depends on you. For the next test, I used the dehydrate function to make beef jerky. After marinating the meat for a couple of hours, I left the dehydrate temperature right where it is by default, but I set the timer for 9 hours. Then I laid down a single layer of beef on the crisping plates and got as much in there as I could without any of it overlapping, because as far as dehydration goes, you really need to keep all your stuff separate. You can see that I really couldn't fit a ton of beef in there. For something like that, you'd benefit by getting some racks like this. In this situation, if I was going to use those, after I had my first layer of meat down, I would take the shelf, set it right in there, and then you'd have a whole second level to put meat on, doubling the amount that will fit in the machine. I didn't test the dehydrate on the machine with these racks because these racks don't come with this machine. These are racks that came with the Ninja Double Stack, and they just happen to fit in here perfect. So if you need to get some racks for your dual zone and there aren't any available for this machine on the Ninja website or on Amazon, remember, you can use the ones for the double stack also. The results on the beef jerky after 9 hours was fantastic. You really don't have to go full 9 hours though. I just happen to like really dry beef jerky. So for me, 9 hours is a really good number to get that. But if you wanted it a little bit more moist, you could probably get away with maybe 6 hours or possibly even 5 hours depending on how thin you cut your meat. For my last test, I used the Smart Finish function to cook meatloaf in zone 1 and some air fried maple glazed carrots in zone 2. You can see that meatloaf is super evenly cooked front to back. I can't complain about that at all. I thought I did a fantastic job. The carrots came out really great too, but they came out more of a consistency of being roasted or something like that, not really air fried. Not really that big a deal to me. I thought they tasted really great anyway. And I did, out of curiosity, cook those carrots a little bit more after the fact just to see what would happen. And they did get a little bit better with time as well. So again, the air fry function seems like it needs to go a little bit longer than you'd expect. As far as critiques go, I already mentioned that this thing is a little bit on the big side, but remember, this has a 10-quart capacity. So it may be a big machine, but in order to have capacity like that, it has to be a big machine. Also, Ninja does make a nice looking machine, but I really wish some of these bits were actually metal instead of just all plastic. These are going to get scratched up really quick, and I would imagine that this is going to start scratching off at some point. You're going to see the black plastic behind it. So if you're using this thing, I wouldn't wear rings or anything else like that, or anything that can gouge this, because it's going to start looking like crap really quick, I think. Also, not a big fan of this handle design at all. To me, it needlessly makes this machine even wider than it needs to be, because each one of those handles sticks out about 1.5 inches. So you figure we got an extra 3 inches of width on this machine just because those handles stick off the side like that. To me, it would have been much better if they just went with something a little bit more narrow. But tell me what you think about that down in the comments. Does this bother you at all, or am I just being a dick? As far as noise goes on this, I was really pleasantly surprised. Ninja's other air fryers typically are super duper loud, but this one, if we start this up, if I'm just air frying in zone 1, you can see that that hits about 70 decibels or so at the top end when I'm not talking. So that's pretty quiet because the air fryer and their pressure cooker is up in the high 80s, I think. Now if I restart this and air fry in both zones at the same time, let's see if this is any louder. So that went up just a few decibels, but it definitely is a noticeable difference if you're standing here in the room with me. Not super loud by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not silent either, and you really do notice that difference. I only have one other gripe about this machine, and it's kind of a weird gripe. For instance, if I were to start something up, and let's say I'm air frying, since I've been doing that a bunch of times anyway. Now, if I want to stop this, I can pause it, but I can't cancel it. See if I hold the button down, is that going to cancel? Nope, not going to cancel. It's just going to pause and restart. So the only way for this to go back to the main menu is for the cycle to completely finish and then it goes back on its own. If I want to change what I'm doing, I have to turn the machine completely off and then turn the machine completely back on again. That's not really a big deal, but it is kind of weird that there's just not a cancel button on this. The Ninja Dual Zone Air Fryer is big, cumbersome, and frankly, it's kind of ugly. However, for the most part, what it can do, it does really well. The best part is that unlike other Ninja products that have air fry function, this one's not going to make you lose your hearing. If you'd like a little bit more information about the Ninja Dual Zone Air Fryer with Megazone, I do have an Amazon affiliate link to it down in the description of the video. If you buy anything through those links, I do make a small commission, but it doesn't change the price that you pay 1 cent. If you like this video, you might like this video right here where I show you how to use the Ninja Dual Zone Air Fryer to make some really great meatloaf. If you like meatloaf, it's definitely something you want to check out. Well, that's it for now. I hope to see you back again here really soon, and until that time, I'm Joe.